We do the traditional talk therapy, which is the group therapy, the one-on-one with your therapist. But then we also have a holistic approach where, we're working mind and body. And to be in a therapeutic environment where you're getting that care you need, every day, whether it's group therapy, individual therapy, your family, your wife, your spouse, whoever needs you at 100%. So you can take the time now and work on yourself and be better so you can have the foundation to go back and hit the ground running, or you can just keep kicking the can down the road and applying some Band-Aids that are not working.
Welcome to Responder Resilience, along with my co-hosts, Dr. Stacy Raymond and Bonnie Rumley, LCSW EMT. I'm David Dashinger. In this episode, we're going to be speaking with retired police commander and Shatterproof Community Liaison Lead at FHE Health, Patrick Fitzgibbons, about specialized addiction and mental health treatment programs for first responders. Catch all our episodes by liking and subscribing: YouTube, Responder Resilience; Facebook, Responder Wellness Inc., and Responder TV; Apple Podcasts, Spotify, LinkedIn. Go to our website, respondertv.com, for past episodes and guest information.
This episode is made possible by the First Responder Center for Excellence. Discover more at firstrespondercenter.org and connect with us on X, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube.
We'll be right back to speak with Patrick after this.
In this family, more of us die by our own hands than by the hazards of the job.
In this family, up to a quarter of 911 telecommunicators have symptoms of post-traumatic stress.
In this family, our mental health and wellness are in crisis,
while responders are quietly suffering.
In this family, many struggle with job-related stress,
burnout, moral injury, sleep disruptions, substance abuse,
and relationship problems.
In this family, we can help the helpers
with vital information and resources,
resilient strategies,
and success stories of overcoming the obstacles.
In this family, no one is alone.
Welcome to Responder Resilience with co-hosts retired Lieutenant David Dashinger, Dr. Stacy Raymond, and Bonnie Rumley, LCSW EMTB.
I'd like to welcome back our friend Patrick Fitzgibbons, who is a retired police commander from Colorado with over 2 decades of experience.
He holds advanced degrees in business and organizational leadership and is pursuing an MS in mental health clinical counseling.
A former Army paratrooper with the 82nd Airborne Division, Patrick supports active military veterans and first responders. As a personal coach and the host of award-winning podcast, Criminal Justice Evolution, Pat shares his journey through depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation. Currently, he serves as a Shatterproof Community Liaison Lead at FHE Health, a specialized treatment program for first responders. And you can find Pat at cjevolution.com. Welcome back, Pat. Good to see you.
Oh, Dave, thank you so much for, it's good to see everybody, and thank you for inviting me back on.
Sure. So, Patrick, I'd like to start by asking you to just start sharing a little bit about your background and what inspired you to become involved in specialized treatment for first responders.
Well, thank you, Stacy. My background, I was a police officer for many years. Prior to that, I was in the military, like the great intro, by the way, Dave. So when I retired in 2019, like most law enforcement or first responders that retire, I thought, my job was behind me. But, I slowly started losing my identity, who I was. And I went through some rough bouts, to say the least. Got severely depressed, lost my identity. My son attempted suicide. He's fine, but that kind of pushed me further down to depression because I blamed myself. Went through a horrible divorce. And I never forget when my son attempted to take his life. I remember watching him on the kitchen floor, and all the trauma that I was, that I had suppressed over the years came flooding back, and I was trying to balance that, take care of him. And again, he's doing great. He's thriving, but that really hit me hard. Like I said, I blame myself, coupled with, losing my identity. My dad passed away. I went through a horrible divorce. So I found myself at one point, with a gun to my head, going to kill myself. And I was drinking heavily, I'm in recovery now, but I was drinking heavily. And long story short, I put the gun down and reached out for help. It was the hardest thing I ever did. I had to put my ego and fear aside, but I'm glad I did, and ended up down in Florida, where I am right now, in South Florida. I went through a program called Shatterproof through FHE Health. It's a program designed specifically for first responders. And when I mean first responders, Stacey, it's not just cops, it's fire, it's EMS, it's corrections, it's, paramedics, so, the whole gambit. I was here inpatient for about 35 days. And I remember about 2 weeks in, I started feeling really good. We'll talk about the different treatment modalities we have here, but I knew I was on the road to recovery when a good friend of mine I used to supervise, I told a few people, obviously my family, my kids, I have 2 adult children. I told them where I was going down to get help. And I remember a buddy of mine, really good friend of mine, he called me up and he said, hey, how's it going? I said, I'm doing great. I feel great. I'm glad I came down here. And he said, hey, some of the guys, how cops are, they talk and rumors start flying, even though I was retired. And he said, do you mind if I tell people where you're at? And I said, absolutely. Tell them where I'm at. That was the first time. I wasn't fearful. I wasn't shy. I wasn't afraid. I put my ego aside. And because if my story was a chance to help somebody else, then I was all for it. Yeah. And so it was interesting, my therapist when I was down at Shatterproof, a great person, great woman. And she was my primary. And so I was getting ready to discharge about a week or 2 out. And I said, I'd love to work here. I would love to start giving back more than I ever did as a cop. And I gave back like all you have given back in your respective careers. And lo and behold, I went back to Colorado, and about 5 months later, I got a call from the CEO, and he said, hey, I understand you want to, work with us. And I said, yeah, I'd love to. Yeah. And I never worked in behavioral health, but I said I'd love to. So I have a couple of graduate degrees. They're not obviously clinical work, but I started out in business development, which is basically acting as a liaison to all the different agencies, and helping with logistics and getting people down here. So I did that for a couple of years. And about a year ago, I was asked to come down and be part of the clinical team, which I jumped at that offer too. So I was living in Arizona at the time for a couple of years in Scottsdale, and I jumped at the offer and came down here. And now I'm part of this amazing team. I'm actually one of the program leads now.
Wow.
So I'm helping.
Good for you.
Run the program along with another program lead and then director. So I'm truly blessed, and we have an opportunity to help first responders from all around the country. We get people from as far as Alaska, clients that come down here. And it's truly an amazing program. So I'm just glad to be here.
Well, your story is very inspiring, and we're grateful that you got the help that you needed. And your story also shows post-traumatic growth, which is something that we touch on here sometimes, and what you can do when you face your trauma, your depression, your anxiety, all of those things that hold you back in life. When you face them, who you can be after. Absolutely. So I hope that our listeners, viewers, can see so clearly the way that we can, and how you just captured that eloquently.
This is First Responder Center for Excellence Managing Director Frank Lieb, inviting you to Music City, Nashville, where a critical conversation awaits. Join us for the Fire Service Mental Wellness and Suicide Prevention Symposium, March 20th and 21st, 2025, at the Renaissance Nashville Hotel. Don't miss our opening reception on March 19th at the Country Music Hall of Fame, a great way to network and kick off the event. Prepare for tomorrow with tools you can use today. We've lined up an incredible group of speakers, including Thomas Joyner and Dr. Sally Spencer Thomas, as they share the roadmap to support our brothers and sisters on the front lines. Let's make mental wellness a priority and learn effective, evidence-based strategies from the best in the field. Let's come together and tackle the critical issue of suicide and public safety. Your journey towards better mental health starts in Nashville. Spots are limited, so be sure to reserve your place now at firstrespondercenter.org/events.
And I wanted to ask you, since you work with so many first responders from all different branches, what do you think are some of the key challenges first responders are facing today at this point in time?
Well, I would say that's a great question, Bonnie. I would say the environment. The environment is still, it's very challenging. It's always been challenging. You all three of you know, but we're still in that that mode. A lot of jurisdictions, municipalities they don't have a favorable view on a lot of first responders. I guess it depends on where you're at, but I think another challenge is actually the stigma behind mental health. I think we've come a long way. I remember going to critical incidents when I was a young police officer, and it was, okay, do your paperwork, go back on the street. There wasn't any kind of debrief. There wasn't any kind of seeking, any kind of mental health services or anything like that. So I think we've gained ground in that regard, but there still is a big, elephant in the room, or gorilla, whatever you want to call it, about mental health. I think from my perspective, a lot of the younger first responders that come and see us, I think are more willing to talk about their problems, but there's still a big chunk of, older people, older first responders like me that are, they view it as weakness, and I'm not going to say anything. So I think that's going to be a challenge. It's always going to be a challenge, but I think it starts with the culture of an agency too. So.
Right.
Well, as we all go to conferences and see all the different exhibitors, we're seeing more and more treatment facilities showing up at these events, promoting their services. In that light, what do clinicians need to know? What do they need to look for when they're recommending a facility to a patient?
Well, I think they need to know the patient, the background, obviously the patient. We have at FHE Health, we have a couple different programs. I work in the Shatterproof program, which is just for first responders. But I think they need to know what the unique challenges that the patient they're talking to or dealing with, and to place them appropriately in inpatient or whatever services they need. So it's just a matter of having a conversation with the client and see how we can help them appropriately. Obviously, substance abuse, mental health challenges, some comorbidity issues. So I think that's going to determine what program they're going to be in, and that's just not for FHE Health, but that's pretty much anywhere they want to refer their patient to. Isolation's a big one. You have a high producer, and they're just kind of dropped in their productivity. I think those are obvious signs. The problem is at least from my perspective, Dave, is when I was a police officer, and especially in those leadership roles, you would see, and I was guilty of it, you would see somebody isolating, or maybe having anger issues, or their temperament is going up, or maybe they're involved in some use of forces or something like that.
Right.
And I was guilty of it, and it's just so and so, they'll get over it.
Right.
So intervening is the big thing is taking those proactive steps to talk to somebody. But obvious behavioral issues, substance abuse, things like to that nature is going to be a key, or it should be the key. And you don't even have to be a supervisor to step in peer to peer and say, hey, what's going on? But the problem is so many people are hesitant with doing that.
Correct. Right. Yeah. See something, say something. There's ways of
see
approaching
absolutely
first responders. Hey, man, I'm worried about you. You're not acting yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, but I think it's a matter of doing it. We all know what to do. It's just sometimes we're hesitant. We don't want to be that guy. To call somebody out.
Can you articulate for our listeners and viewers what is the benefit of inpatient over outpatient? What's the benefit?
Again, I think the benefit is that you're in a clinical environment. You're here, especially with you say you're here on Shatterproof. It's structured, which is a lot of times is what our first responders need. They need get some structure, and to be in a therapeutic environment where you're getting that care you need, every day, whether it's group therapy, individual therapy, some of the holistic approaches we do, like getting different type, CBT, DBT, different types of group therapy. We do a lot of advanced breath work. We do neurostimulation, neurofeedback, EMDR. So we do, that's the benefit where you're getting, you're literally
immersed in it. They're immersed in it.
Yeah, you're just immersed in all these different, treatment modalities. That's the benefit of inpatient.
Right.
Now, again, you all know it's going to depend on the client, but I think there's so much value in being an inpatient. And the thing for me is to see the transformation. And one of the first people that our clients see when they come into intake, maybe they're in detox or they're tapering for 5-6 days, and I go over there and talk to them, and you're in a safe place. You're in a safe place. You're going to be among first responders, because a lot of first responders only want to be around first responders. But I think that's the biggest thing with being an inpatient, is because we get high acuity in here, and once they're here for a couple of weeks, it starts coming down a lot. So that's a huge benefit with being inpatient.
The other thought I have is that with inpatient, or as compared to outpatient, you can go to your program, whatever it is, a couple hours or whatever. Then you can go home and fall apart, or you could, I'm not saying that, or use a substance. And show your true colors of what you're really struggling with. Whereas inpatient, you don't have, in many cases, you don't have access to your cell phone either. You can make calls at certain times of the day, but obviously you don't have access to substances. And as time goes by, you can't hide, those dynamics, those traits that are really troubling you. They are going to surface, especially across 28, 30 days, and then the staff get to see that. And, I think it's a deeper dive. Well, it is a deeper dive. You're there for a solid month, but you're getting to see the true colors of that first responder.
Yeah,
unlike, a partial hospital program or, day hospital, or just going to a group or individual therapy.
And that's exactly right, Stacy. And from the time a call is made to FHE to our admissions, we're looking at these cases and these, listening to the clients, and the recommendation a lot of times is you'd benefit from an inpatient type of environment. But you're exactly right; they're getting immersed in it. And the hardest thing is with that mentality, especially with like first responders, and they're struggling with addiction and all kinds of other stuff, but getting them to, okay, you need to come down here for 30 days or 28 days, whatever that, whatever that's going to look like. Well, I can't, because, I have a vacation, or I have, the holidays, it's always, well, I got to, and I tell patients, look, this is your time.
Right.
This is your time, and what I kind of redirect it, back on them sometimes and say, your family, your wife, your spouse, whoever needs you at 100%. So you can take the time now and work on yourself and be better, so you can have the foundation to go back and hit the ground running, or you can just keep kicking the can down the road and applying some Band-Aids that are not working. So a lot of times inpatient is better, because you come down here for 30 days, you get patched up, figuratively speaking, and we give you some great tools, give you the foundation. The hardest thing about inpatient, you all know this, is when they're in inpatient, and this is any program, you're in a bubble, you're getting some amazing care, amazing therapists, different treatment modalities. The hardest thing is when you leave. Because you're going back to your environment, you're going back to your triggers, you're going back to all the things that probably got you here.
Yep.
So that's,
and everyone knows you've been gone for a month, so they're going to have questions.
Well, and exactly, and I'm glad you hit on that, Stacy. The one thing that therapists are really good at, and me when I talk to clients, is when you're down here, you're getting great care. We're taking care of you, but you have to understand the people back home, maybe it's a spouse or whatever, they're still reeling from the trauma. So you got to keep that in perspective, that when the wife is, or spouse or whoever is seeing pictures, you're on the beach and they don't understand the work you're doing down.
Right.
But they're still traumatized about whatever happens. So you have to realize their point of view, so it's.
Do you include families like on the phone or like a couple session?
Yeah, that's the individual therapists do that. We have a lot of resources for family. We actually started a podcast called First Responders Family Podcast at the beginning of last year, and it's really taken off. Where we have our director of family services who hosts the show. And so there's a lot of resources out there. I'd like to see in the future more. I'd like to see more resources for family, just because typically, it's all been geared toward the first responders. Well, most first responders have a spouse or significant other or something. So they need to be more into that mix with the healing and the therapy. So
introducing Fight Camp. Thousands of workouts led by expert trainers that meet you on your time. Live punch stats motivate you to push harder and help you map out your progress. Knockout achievements, or go head-to-head against other rivals from across the country or across the living room. Learn the basics and sharpen your skills over time through tailored paths. Join the biggest boxing community in the world without leaving your home. Fight Camp.
Hey everyone, if you're looking to elevate your fitness journey, listen up. Fight Camp is rolling out an incredible offer just for Responder Resilience listeners, an absolutely free package that includes punch crackers, quick wraps, and a 45-day membership trial valued at $238. This isn't just a workout, it's a way to track your progress in real time with advanced technology. You'll have access to over 3,000 on-demand workouts tailored for all fitness levels, so you'll never run out of options. Plus, if you want to share the experience, their family-friendly subscriptions make it easy. Join the 35% of Fight Camp members who are military personnel, veterans, and first responders. Kickstart your fitness journey and follow these simple steps to get your free package. Just email us today at info@respondertv.com for your exclusive promo code, and we'll send you everything you need to sign up and claim your free offer. That's info@respondertv.com.
Well, just to go back to something we touched on before, again, we know this, but this is more for our viewers and listeners. Why do you think it's so important to first responders to be amongst their own people when they're going through this process?
That's a great question. And speaking from experience, being a patient at Shatterproof for a while, I was down here for 35 days. And I don't think I think they want to be with their people. Because if we're all first responders down here, we have kind of some of the same thinking. I don't have to explain things to you. If I hear some trauma with another first responder, it's going to affect me, but it's not like it would be if somebody who's a civilian. And I don't mean that in a bad way. If somebody who's a civilian, I'm just saying it's just easier. We have that bond automatically.
Yep.
It doesn't matter where we're from. I was a cop in Colorado. I could be sitting next to a cop from New Jersey, and I think another benefit, Bonnie, is first responders, as we all know, are very reluctant to open up. It's a trust thing. So if I'm in a program with all first responders, naturally, I'm going to feel a little bit more trusting. But then the flip side of that is if I'm in group therapy and I was reluctant with really sharing my story, and then I hear a first responder that is pretty much going through the same stuff I am, maybe it's substance behavior, issues, anger issues, maybe that's going to give me the push to start opening up in group because we all have shared experiences. Everybody, the one thing I'm learning is everybody's dealing with kind of the same stuff, whether you're a first responder or not. It could be adverse childhood experiences, could be alcohol, abusive parents. Well, a lot of that first responders deal with in their background. So, but I think, when first responders are with each other, that is crucial because they all speak the lingo. We don't have to really explain, certain aspects of the job, whether you're fire, EMS, we're all first responders. So I think that's critical with keeping them together.
Well, Pat, earlier you mentioned all the different modalities that are offered at FHE and Shatterproof. Can you explain a little more about how the interdisciplinary teams work together, operate within those inpatient facilities within your program?
No, we work amazing together. Every morning we have clinical rounds. We get, the director of our breath work in there, our EMDR director. We all come together. to benefit the client. It's about the client. We want to make sure that they have a good experience. Sure, we use things like with EMDR, we use like a PCL5 and some other things to look at to kind of measure and gauge where their trauma is. But the different teams that handle different treatment modalities, neurostimulation, EQG, and make sure they get brain maps and stuff like that. We all come together and talk about the patients to kind of tackle which is the best approach for their treatment.
So it's like a holistic approach is what you're talking
Absolutely.
about.
When I talk to clients, I tell them, especially with somebody's on the phone, when I was, they're kind of on the fence whether or not to come, I say, we do the traditional talk therapy, which is the group therapy, the one-on-one with your therapist. But then we also have a holistic approach where, we're working mind and body. So we do advanced breath work sessions. We do a biobed where it deals a lot with regulating and breath work. We do EMDR. We do, yoga. We do acupuncture. We do all these different types of things. We offer ketamine in some cases. It's becoming more popular with, especially with veterans and first responders. It's kind of like a last resort here for us. Right. But I only hear good things about ketamine. So
what are some of the most favorite or preferred?
I think I get a lot of kudos with the EMDR.
Yeah.
Clients love, and I think a lot of it, comes down to the practitioner, because I've heard clients before they come to Shatterproof said, I've done EMDR, back home, and it really didn't do much for me. Okay, well, now you're under our care. Why don't you try EMDR? Your PCL score is pretty high. Why don't we try it with our director? And they absolutely love it.
Yes.
And that neurostimulation, that's good too.
Can you mention a little bit, just describe in a couple sentences, what is neurostimulation? Is it the neurotech where they put the magnets? Is it where you're using magnets? Is that the neurostimulation?
Well, neurostimulation is we're going to do we're going to put it at different areas of your brain. It's a little cap, and trust me, I'm not a doctor, so I'm using it in layman's. But our techs, and it's run by our director, and they put a cap on you. They get a kind of a map of your brain. They can see where areas of the brain are.
It's neurofeedback when they do brain mapping like that. Yeah.
Well, it's neurofeedback, but neurostimulation, it's a little different. Okay. With neurofeedback, it's like a talk kind of therapy. With neurostimulation, we're putting a cap on, we're getting a scan of your brain, and then through subsequent micro stimulations. Yes. I remember it's not shock therapy, because a lot of people, remember when I was going through it, they're like, you're shocking my brain. They're like, no, it's little micro stimulations, and they put it strategically in the areas that they want to, center on. So little neurostimulation, they give you a screen to look at, and it's just, I can't describe it, but it is amazing. And it helps, enhance that neuroplasticity in the brain, kind of regulate the brain again. It works wonders. So most clients get probably on average 13, 14 sessions. I did 18 when I was not only the neuro stimulation, getting that brain, kind of balanced again, it's all the other treatment modalities that we do coming together, and it just works wonders for our clients.
I'm just really curious about how do you make sure that you have culturally competent therapists, who know how to work with first responders at your facility?
Well, we obviously, we do, we look, in the hiring process, they go through a series of interviews, and it helps, if you have, it's not a prerequisite to work as a therapist, Okay, all right. It's not a prerequisite that you have to be a first responder. Now we're blessed because we have a lot of our therapists that have, they're retired cops, military, stuff like that. So that's a bonus. But we have other, therapists that don't have that, and they're amazing therapists. So, it's like any other organization, Stacey, we do interviews, and, ask them questions, kind of get a gauge whether or not they're going to, fit well within the program. And but we're blessed, we really are. We have all of our therapists are amazing. We have some pretty young therapists, And then we have some older therapists. So maybe if we have, a couple of younger clients coming in, we'll if it's appropriate, we'll put them with the younger therapist so they can connect.
Correct.
But we have great therapists, but it's just like any other thing, any other job, they're going to get vetted. They're going to ask questions. They're going to kind of get a gauge. I interview, and the director and the other program lead, they'll, we'll kind of meet with them and see if they'd be a good fit. But it is a unique position because all three of dealing with I shouldn't say dealing, but working with first responders is quite different. First responders see trauma on a daily basis. Most people have trauma in their life, but not to the degree as first responders on a daily basis. So accumulation of that, like I said, they come in here, a lot of them high acuity. And so you have to be able to work with those clients. Most of us are type A, they like, they just give it to me straight. No, sugarcoat. And so it's a unique population, and we're blessed to have amazing people on our team.
As firefighters and first responders, we're brilliant at the basics. We master the art of stretching the line, and we excel at being there for those who need us most. Yet even the best of us can be caught off guard. We sometimes face unexpected challenges like injury, cancer, or post-traumatic stress symptoms. But you're not alone. The First Responder Center for Excellence is here to equip you with the tools and resources you need to stay informed and prepared. We help you focus on staying strong, safe, fit, and resilient. Optimize your performance with cutting-edge health, wellness, and science information. From fitness to nutrition, medical evaluations to behavioral health, cancer awareness to cardiac health. We've got you covered. Remember, we're stronger together. Discover more at firstrespondercenter.org and connect with us on X, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. The First Responder Center for Excellence. Equip yourself with excellence for every call.
So we've talked about overarching how you can support all the first responders in the same program, but I'm wondering, what do you do to tailor? Because there are nuances, there are differences between the branches. I'm wondering what you notice with that, and then what are your options in terms of tailoring to some of those nuances?
Well, we don't really kind of divide the different branches into different cohorts. We've been really, really fortunate. We've never, quite frankly, Bonnie, had a problem with it. We have, we have firefighters in groups with, group sessions with police officers and paramedics and fire and stuff like that. We've never really had an issue with it because they're all struggling pretty much from the same stuff. Yeah, culturally, I can see that. Fire is fire department is different from police, but we all work together. The police work hand in hand with fire and EMS, and so different cultures, but we're all suffering from the same stuff, and we all work hand in hand. So
earlier you shared your story, how you went through the program, and that's a massive success story. Are there any other, or is there another story you can share of someone's success that benefited from going through FHE and Shatterproof?
Oh, absolutely. There's so many, Dave. We get, without naming any names, obviously, but, we get emails all the time. We get, letters from people, cards who, thank us, for saving their life. And it touches us. But what they need to realize is we were walking with you, and we helped you, and we provided you with the guidance and the support. You're the one that did the work, and you're the one that made the changes. But there's so many success stories out there. And one thing I'd like to add too, Dave, is sometimes we get people coming back, and there's no shame in that. Just for the listeners out there, I've talked to people who are, come back and they're in intake, they're ashamed. They're like, I let myself down, and I'm like, look, I'm glad you're back. I'd rather have you here than out there doing something. So there's, once you get past, because we don't treat them any different. Why would we? Maybe some organizations do. We do not. I am glad they're back. It's not a one-shot deal for some
No, it's
people.
not. Sometimes
okay.
it takes 2 trips through inpatient to really get all the material. Just think, I mean, they're immersed with, in all of these techniques, and who knows, even in 30 days, maybe they didn't get through all of their trauma, because they may have military trauma, childhood trauma. And so maybe it does take a second trip to finish, and really get them stable. So,
and I tell people, Stacey, I tell them, look, it took a long time to screw you up. It's going to take some time to peel back the onion.
That's right.
To address some of these issues.
So, Pat, once a patient is discharged from any inpatient facility, what steps should clinicians take to ensure that there's continuity of care and support, and so that there is a smooth transition back to outpatient services?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, I can speak from my point of view with that. We have case management. Each of the clients is assigned a case manager. Obviously, they have a caseload. But before they even discharge, Stacey, the clients are meeting with case management. They're working on aftercare, IOP, whatever that looks like. Maybe they came in working with a primary. So we're going to, be in touch with their primary therapist, whoever's part of their support team back home. We're going to set all that up. So when they discharge and they go back to wherever, they're going to hit the ground running. We're going to work on all that stuff before they even discharge. So it's so important, like you said, the continuity of care. And not just for any, it's for any therapists are out there, if they're going back somewhere, to make sure that the handoff is smooth. So you don't have a client, in limbo, because their aftercare is crucial. We all know that. And they have to hit the ground running, with whatever it looks like in their aftercare. But we're blessed here because we have case managers that are constantly talking to, the clients. They help with FMLA and, whatever issues the clients have. So again, when they discharge, they're going to go back and they're going to hit the ground running, which is critical.
I think that's great that you provide that, because a lot of times when people come out of inpatient back to us, there are a lot of questions about FMLA, or they're out on the PTSI bill. And, it's a lot of different things to know when you're on the outside as well, on how to support everyone. And every agency is also different in how they support their responders. Some will say, okay, he went away for 30 days and we're just going to take care of that. And others are going to make it very difficult for their responders. So I admire the fact that you all provide such great case management to get people set up, because in my view, the inpatient part is super important. Medically, as we know, just the detoxing process is very dangerous, and starting to do the work. But the aftercare is just as important, because that, to me, shows, where do they need to go next? What else has to be done? How can we help their family? There are so many aspects of it. And you touched on it before, too. When people come out of inpatient, they go back to the same workplace that hasn't changed with the old patterns. They go back to their family who hasn't changed, and as you mentioned, is still reeling from the trauma. So they have to fight even harder, because they're going back to the old pattern, and they're the only thing that's really different.
Absolutely. And when our clients leave, Bonnie, they're alumni now. So they might be discharged from our care, but we still offer some services. For instance, we have a weekly alumni call that I host every other Friday, where it's only for Shatterproof alumni that they get information when they discharge of the link, and it's just a weekly check-in. And I might get 15, 16 clients in there every Friday, and it's just, hey, anybody want to talk about anything, anybody struggling?
Great.
Let's come together as a community, So it's something else where we're maintaining those touch points with our clients even after they leave. They're alumni. Every year we have an alumni retreat, where we, and usually in Florida, where we get our alumni from Shatterproof and other programs too, where we can all get together and just kind of celebrate, recovery and wellness. And so it's not that, we get them out the door and it's, see ya.
That's it, see ya.
You good luck. No, we care about our clients. We want to see them succeed, and we still maintain that contact even after they discharge.
Pat, we've covered quite a bit, and I just wanted to kind of put it out there to you again from the perspective of a clinician that wants to know more about these kind of programs, and specifically your program. Is there anything you'd like to add or let them know? What should they know that we haven't covered?
Yeah, you can go to FHEHealth.com. That's our website. You can see all the different programs that we have. You can scroll down if you're interested in the Shatterproof program or some other programs. It's all right there. My contacts information it's out there, so you can reach out to me if you have any questions about anything. And lastly, we always encourage, clinicians, especially if somebody's going to be referring somebody down to FHE and, Shatterproof, come down, get a tour. We bring people down all the time. It's one thing talking about Shatterproof, but it's another thing when you have a decision maker or a clinician coming down and actually talking with our clinicians, talking with our directors, seeing where, their client or their patient's going to be staying. We have a beautiful campus, Dave. It's we got to get you down here too. It's a beautiful campus. It does not look like a behavioral health facility.
Oh, that's nice.
And it's gorgeous. We're about 10 minutes away from the beach, but give me a call. My contacts information is online. Check out the site, our different programs, different, treatment modalities, a deeper dive online than what we talked about. But and we're here, FHE Health. We've got a lot of different programs, and we'd be happy to help you.
Fantastic. Bonnie, Stacy, any other thoughts?
I'm just so grateful I got to meet you today, Patrick.
I'm grateful.
I wasn't fortunate enough to be on the last one with you, but I do watch you on social media, and I thank you for everything you're doing for our brothers and sisters. They need it.
Thank you.
We know that, but you're doing the work, so thanks.
Well, thank you for what you do, Bonnie and Stacy. The behavioral health is, I never thought I'd work in behavioral health, but I have found my niche. I tell you what, I tell, I tell clients, sometimes they ask me, what brought you to behavioral health? And I was like, well, if you look at my resume, it doesn't look like behavioral health, but I'm so glad I'm here. I found my passion, and it's given back.
You're going for a degree in counseling?
Yeah, so I'm almost done with my clinical degree, so I'd be a licensed clinician down here in the great state of Florida.
Incredible.
Got to get my hours in, as you all know, and all my do
Absolutely.
all that stuff. So I'll get there.
So Pat, I wanted to jump in and say, if there's anybody that's going to influence first responders, it's somebody who has been a first responder, has struggled, and has risen above. And so, because of that, you're very inspiring to first responders. So thank you for that.
Appreciate it. You all are rocking it. Keep up the great work.
Well, you too. It's always a pleasure, my friend. It's always great to cross paths with you, and I look forward to seeing you down there getting the tour. I know it's going to be fun. So thanks for spending this time with us today and helping to enlighten clinicians who need to know more about this part of mental health. We appreciate you spending the time with us.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day. I appreciate it.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Remember to like and subscribe: YouTube, Responder Resilience, Facebook, Responder Wellness Inc., and Responder TV, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and go to our website, respondertv.com, for past episodes, guest information. Until the next time, stay safe, be kind to yourself, take care.